would you say is your current primary focus of and I know based on the things you've got going on that there's limited time and all of that, but what is it that you're particularly excited, interested, or working on in terms of your own study at this point?
Well, what I really want to be able to do in the moment right now is just get to higher levels of what I have. Like full absolute. I know it. Boom, boom, boom. The things that I know now. I want to stay on a path and a course to work towards mastery. And that's one of the great things about working, in a system where you have a Tai Chi master. That's you. Because in other systems, you reach a point where either they can't teach you anymore because they don't anymore, or maybe they're unwilling to because of their ego and they don't want to feel like you're catching up or equal. But that doesn't happen with you. There is so much information, it's mind-boggling. So that's what I want to do. I just want to continue on that path. Currently, right now, I want to make sure that I really have the stuff I need without having to think about it. It just turns on and it happens. So the different energy qualities that I work with, and the Fa Gong, I want to make sure I get further along in there. There's a lot of reward to helping other people. So the woman who was able to take some steps, I think that had I known more about Fa Gong, I might have been able to help her even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. For the volume of information, and it's not just like lots of information, but through the levels of Tai Chi from beginner to a very advanced. If I get somebody that comes in and they're like, why are you willing to, why do I have this? Why is it this much? And why am I willing to teach it? And those kind of things. I'm like, well, I'm an avid student and have been for most of my career, and having done this now for over 40 years, it's and then looking for, in a certain way, what is the end point of this training, and never really having hit it, and talking to senior masters that are in their 80s and 90s and them saying they haven't hit it either, right? That it just continues, that there are things to learn there, and it has to do with, it really is body training, and then mind training, and then energy training, and then spirit training, and then how you interact at the level of consciousness and mind and spirit and all of that stuff. And there's a lot of things in there that is there's a track, for lack of a better way to say this, where it's not like it's some of this and then some of that. There's what you get kind of coming in, and then there's the building on top of that with all the other things, where you can see why the things you did at the beginning there you would think of as just body things are also the energy things and the mind things, and then why those things, how they tie in, and what happens for more spiritual level training and understanding. And I don't mean so much your belief or philosophy, that's whatever it is. I'm really talking about in terms of that we have a spirit, and being able to utilize and access and utilize that spirit in our lives. And then the further along you get, the more you see how it pertains directly to what you did even at the beginning of the training. And it's just that the volume of it for what's really there is a lot. And so the answer that I've had when somebody said, I think I'm gonna do whatever I can to catch up to you, I'm like, well, start running and keep running. And if I stand still, in about 20, 25 years, you'll catch up. But I'm not standing still. So at least I'll be ahead of you going, come on, this way.
That's one more great thing, is that you are actively furthering your training. That's important for us.
If you're willing to keep teaching me, I'm going to be willing to keep, and happy to keep learning. So yeah, cool.
There was one other thing I thought it might fit in somewhere, but it didn't come up. But my uncle had passed away recently, and I'm a person who has always had a hard time going to funerals. There's just too much emotion for me. I never understood why. If I go to funerals and I don't even know the people, it's just so emotional and it's hard for me to be there. So I just wouldn't go to them. People at work, family members would die, and I just couldn't go to the funerals. It was just too much. But when my uncle passed away, I knew I had to go. And my aunt asked me to speak. And I'm like, I don't know if I can compose myself enough to speak. Being there is one thing. So what helped me was I started thinking about it. What is it? What is this emotion? What's happening? Is it really just me? Is it all the people in the room that's doing it to me? And I remembered working on, I think, a yeast skill where you put yourself inside. And I had done this, I think, with Harry, where he put himself in me, and I pushed him out.
He put his mind inside, like
right,
consciousness inside of you, and
yeah.
put them in there working. And it's like, because there's a high healing component to that too, making adjustments internally and that kind of thing. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Right. So that skill right there, I said, okay, well, I'm going to use that. So when I was at the funeral, I did that. I just pushed everything out, and it was just me, and I was fine. I was, clear, and I was able to speak. I could still feel it, and then when other people started becoming emotional, I could feel it, but I could still hold it back. And I had never been able to do that before.
Yeah, so it was, and that goes in the levels that has to do with heart mind level type. You have to have the training that you're talking about, and then usually depending on the school and the level and all that, if they're really teaching the whole thing, the jing, the different expressions, the explosive jing and spiraling and rooting and expanding and different things. But then it goes to heart mind being xin shin that way. And that's part of the heart mind stuff, is being able to regulate your own emotional self and understand it and relate to it and process it, and how you operate and handle things and deal with things and process and work through the emotional issues in life and all of that. And then it gets into how you're also interacting with emotions that other people have that are close to you, or that are coming at you with that, or that kind of thing. And so, yeah, part of building off of the communication that you're talking about, like for being a communications manager, there is that there's different levels of communication. So first is the physical interaction, and just here's some information, 1, 2, 3, right? And then, okay, I heard 1, 2, 3, and then here's the answer to that, whatever, 4, 5, 6. But then there's also, what did they really mean by what they said? And then there's, what is the emotional drive with what they said, behind what they said, and or that they're looking to fill or to experience, that has to do with that. And then how does that relate to your journey in life and your application of that in terms of compassion and experience and exchange and all those things. And so it all goes through a number of levels that gets fairly deep and profound. I'm just like giving you like the bullet point simple right now, but there's a lot of information in there to understand and train and be able to do and know. And Tai Chi is trying to hit that, and has great training for hitting that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I can see that application just everyday life. Just in my my job. Emotional intelligence is something that I've always felt that I knew. Like, I read the book and everything, and I was like, yeah, this stuff is great. I understand it. It works really well. But there's so much more to it. And being able to really relate to a person helps me help them. So even just my employees, my employees are very valuable and important to me, because the better they can do their job, the easier my life is.
Oh, yeah.
So I spend a lot of time developing and upskilling, and I get these employees sometimes who come from other locations who really weren't treated very well. And I have to get past that with them. They don't have trust. They don't understand that I mean what I say when I tell them that I want them to be successful. Their success is my success, but to them, that's just words. So we can connect. And once I make that connection with them, then I can start developing them.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, oh, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're bringing up the point of empathy, being able to reach out to other people and have them reach back. And I think this is, part of Tai Chi is developing that Ting listening skill. And part of Tai Chi is learning to put your E into the other person so you can understand and listen better. So it's interesting. It brings up a very interesting aspect of, do you see this, Chris, as applying Tai Chi principles in your work, or do you just see it as being basically a good person?
Well, I see it as building on the good person that I am by using Tai Chi principles. I got so far on my own, I have good nature. I care about people. But then trying to use the Tai Chi skills to really relate to a person and feel, it's hard. Yeah, I see you smiling, Harry. I am a good person.
Yes, you are. I just, it's funny, the relationship we have. Like, yeah, you should have him as your instructor at some point. That was a whole different world and a whole different thing. And you were a great instructor, but it was one of those very, bow, now, one of those type of schools a little bit. And so very funny. That's a different side of Chris, which he doesn't have to exude anymore.
Right. No,
Sometimes, yeah, go ahead.
it's still there. And, if it's necessary, if it seems to be something that will work, some people do need that. It's still there. Yeah.
Yep.
According to one of my instructors, some people need grandmotherly love. Grandmotherly love. And like some grandmas wouldn't see that. My mom had grandmotherly love. Yeah. I'm picturing Chase doing something and she was like, stop that. He's like flashing her or something. He was 4 and she was like, we're not doing that. Do you want to watch TV before you go to school? Then dress yourself. And some grandmotherly love right there. And then she was like, you did what he was supposed to do. And then I gave him a hug and dropped him off at school. This was when Muriel had a surgery or something where she was pretty out of pocket for a few weeks, and my mom came and helped take care of him.
Yeah. We were also.
I was going to say, is grandmotherly love a code for hard love?
Yeah, yes, pretty much. The grandma's got the wisdom to go, if I'm too easy on this child, that bad things are going to happen. So stop that. We're going to get it straight. And now grandma loves you, honey, but it's with,
Grandmotherly love, in my experience, usually starts with the stick, and then if you start to catch on, maybe there's a carrot, but it starts with the stick.
So we should all keep Tai Chi rulers.
Yeah. I think that if you keep going with grandmotherly love as well, and it's working, then they eventually reach a point where they look back and see the value of it, and they know that what was happening was really with love and good intent.
Yeah. Well, and Chris, you're also really good with discipline. One of the things that you didn't mention and whatnot is you do have a military background as well, which I'm sure was good for instilling doing things the way they need to be done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really, I was in the United States Air Force for 4 years as an aircraft mechanic, and I loved it. But it really wasn't my thing because I was a young kid and there were things I didn't like about the discipline also. But you had to learn the discipline. The military does not allow you not to learn the discipline. If you don't learn the discipline, well, they just put you in jail. Nothing you can do about it. So they were tough. And you just had to do what you were told. You had to learn to respect the line of command, which I valued. I enjoyed the line of command. There were definitely times that I felt that some people in that line of command didn't belong there, though.
Yeah.
And then you had to learn how to deal with that as well. You still respect the rank, even if you don't respect that person, because that's an important part of the bigger picture. So yeah, I definitely had some of that.
Chris, when I dealt with people like that, I used to say, with all the respect you are due, instead of all due respect.
Yes. Very good.
Sometimes it happens the other way, because when I came into the military as a captain, I was often very critical of what the colonels were, the decisions the colonels were making. But they had a different perspective than I did. And then as I moved along, in many cases, I absolutely saw why they made those decisions. They made it from a very different vantage point.
Yes.
I've seen that myself over my career, not in the military, but just moving up and starting as an entry-level employee and then moving up and becoming a manager. It's really easy as kind of a grunt to not understand why the decisions are what they are and assume that there's something being done wrong or incorrectly when you're not actually responsible for any of the stuff that has to happen or be done on time. I can only imagine the difference in the level of discipline there in the military, though. Because as manager, I've had a hard time getting anyone to respect me, and that's its own challenge. In the military, if I had a rank, I'd like to believe that would make my job easier, but I bet it also makes the criticism harsher. Anyway, not to digress. I did have a question for you that something he said reminded me of earlier, Chris. And if you have time,
Sure.
So and something you said also, so there is a connection there that about like, so first of all, let me start here. Did you start in Clear Tai Chi by doing the Clear Tai Chi level 1? Is that
Yes.
what kind of first? Yeah, okay. But then since then, obviously you've done the Fagong material and the at least the level 1 push hands.
Yes.
Right. And so here's my kind of question to you is that for me, at least, and I know for a lot of other people on the call at the beginning, each one of those 3 things kind of feels very different and like it's its own category of things. But now that you've hit the level of training that you're at and working through the intermediate stuff, are you starting to see what he sort of suggested, that like the connections between them and that it really is all kind of one thing that you're building on?
Yeah, that's a really good point. In the beginning, it was funny when I first started. I was going through the online training. I was like, oh, this is simple, and why am I doing this? And I just rushed through stuff. And then I'd circle back, and I'd be like, oh, there's more here. and each time there's always more there. I was like, wait a minute. So like I'd go through it, and then I had to go back and learn more. Each time I built on it. So it does the same thing. Within itself, it builds on it because of how you absorb information, or at least how I absorb the information. But then, yeah, when you go to the intermediate, you can kind of see how it's put together to grow into the next level, to the bigger stuff. Just like in the level 1, there's that moss or the dragon.
Yeah, dragon waving.
Yeah, dragon waving, and how that really connects to waving. When we get into the actual wave and things like that, your body has to start somewhere to make it easier for you when you get to the next step. And that's, I think, what the beginning does, is starts getting your body ready, getting your mind ready, getting your ting ready. If you don't have enough ting and sung, you may not feel the other things when you go further along. So it's a progression that seems to have a design, which I'm sure it does. Yes. So yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, the other reason for that dragon waving in the beginning is that most people, until they get that, still have quite a bit of what I call stick person, stick man going on, and ideally it becomes a lot more alive and fluid. And so you have, like you say, you got to start somewhere, and so it does that. And then the other one is that there's a jing that's basically internal float, but exhibited externally. Also, I don't mean lifting up off the floor. I'm talking about just that somebody feeling you feel like you're not there, it's very empty in that good way, and yet very present at the same time. And that skill is one of the more advanced Tai Chi skills there is, but most people have to go through a lot of other training that leads up to it to get it. I used to try to teach it pretty early in the curriculum, and I found nobody that came through could even get close to doing it. And that's when I realized, okay, I got to put a bunch of steps in here and there's training in the Tai Chi that made it easy to do that, to get people so that they can get to what that is. And then like that, but it's the stepping stones. Each one of those stepping stones has its own body of information and benefits, but eventually to get to that internal and external float, that is really what you think of as higher level Tai Chi. If you see it most of the time when you see it done, it really is being done with very high level stuff. Cool.
Anybody else have anything for Chris? I know we're on a bit of a time crunch. Jim?
Yeah, going back to something earlier, Chris, could you talk a little bit about how you made the transition from teacher of Harry to student of Harry back to teacher of others?
And I think Harry teaches me now. So because of the knowledge that he just brings, he's been doing this longer, so I can learn from him. I can learn from anybody. So I guess the transition, I started off going all the way back, was a friend of mine. We started going to the gym together. He was my gym buddy. And after a year of the gym, that got really boring. And he suggested we start looking for martial arts. We found this martial arts school. He lasted 3 days and quit, but I loved it, so I stayed. And their program, the Body Mind System people, they designed their program to make instructors. That's what they want. And they slowly lead you into that direction of that's what you have to be. And they almost, it feels almost like they use a sort of bait and switch tactic to make you think that if you don't become an instructor, you're not going to get all the training. So there were definitely some tactics that they used that I wasn't really happy with, but it did work. And in the end, I was happy. They basically steered me into being an instructor, and I enjoyed it. Then becoming a student, I don't think you ever stop being a student. They even said, when you become an instructor, you're going to learn from your students. And there was so much to learn. So even after I felt at the point that they were no longer teaching me anything new, just being the instructor there was very valuable. And I was learning so much from the students, from being there with them. There was so much left to learn. So I don't think you ever stop being a student, and you should never stop being a student, in my opinion. So I think what people might get trapped with, and I don't know if I did or didn't, but ego is a thing that gets in the way of people. So to ever think that, I used to be Harry's instructor and now he's been doing clear Tai Chi so much longer than me and he's further along than I am, I don't see that as a problem at all. I just value it. I think that the relationship that I have with Harry and the relationship that I start with you guys from the times that I've met some of you is important and invaluable. So it isn't being an instructor doesn't make you better. It just makes you maybe more responsible because you took on the responsibility to help others.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a huge testament to the ego being correct and proper, because that it isn't necessarily an easy thing. The same for Kristen. Also, it's a testament to Sifu Clear's program, because while I was busy, and that I attended that school usually 5 or 6 days a week. A bad week for me was showing up 3 or 4 times a week. I was whole hog in. And when I stepped foot in that school, I had never done an ounce of martial arts in my life. I remember day one with you showing me kick short form. And and so while I'm at that school beginning to study Sifu Clear stuff on the side, so quickly shot me up in knowledge and ability and skill is a huge testament to the way his program is designed, as you've kind of alluded to as well, how it just keeps building skill and skill and skill, and it's laid out so very well.
Thanks, guys. Cool. Any other questions today? Okay, well, thank you, Chris.
Well, thank you, Sifu.
If you like what you've been hearing about Clear Tai Chi Level 1, we've got DVDs and we have an online curriculum, and that is at clearmartialarts.com. And clearmartialarts.com, there's also the free guide to internal power that you can access on there, and that's got different lessons and whatnot in it.
Also the Fogun program and the Push Hands program. If you already have the Clear Tai Chi Level 1, or you just wanted to get started in one of those other areas, those are all available on clearmartialarts.com. There's a lot of great material there, but like so many people on this call, we do recommend that you start with the Clear Tai Chi Level 1 program. If you haven't started with us yet officially and you want to get started, that is a really great way to get introduced to all the kind of building block skills that we use to advance people in the system. And we keep saying either or, either go to clearmartialarts.com or go to taichigathering.com. But really, what my experience is, if you do one, you're going to want to do the other. So what I would suggest is go to whichever one seems best for you to do first. If it's getting towards where you're thinking about taking a trip in June and wanting to come out and see us live, and it's kind of that time in your life and the year when you're listening to this, go to taichigathering.com. If June seems like just a long time away and you want to get started quicker than that, go to clearmartialarts.com. But you're going to want to do both, because frankly, the training is amazing on clearmartialarts.com, but the experience coming out live and hanging out with the group and being part of the gathering is too much fun to miss. So that's my piece on that.
The other thing I want to make sure that I've said here is that the vast majority of the folks in this call teach in their areas or have meetup group, that kind of thing. And if you're within simple, easy driving distance of them, avail yourself of that and get with them live. Even if you're going to do it online, having that live hands-on and people to put hands-on with is so important for the real development. For your form, that very first little part, you don't need it as much, but for almost everything else, it really makes a giant difference having the ability to put hands-on, even just for alignment and structure and really proper application of internal qualities, as simple as like breath and that kind of thing. And so definitely avail yourself of these folks. They will be, them and me and Matt here will all be teaching at the gathering in June, and you'll get to see all these folks, or the vast majority of them, live. So definitely come out for that, and we look forward to seeing you and meeting you and working with you and all that. So thank you, everybody, for all that. Any last words today? Okay, more next time.
Good interview, good discussion. I just
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you
Chris.
for being here for us, Chris. We'll let you get back to work, but
And then everybody stay on, and we'll have our business meeting after this call. So we'll turn off this recording for the folks that are watching at home, and then we'll have our meeting that's just for our instructors.
Thank you.